Now, welcome back, everybody. So glad to have you here. Hello, Alan. Hello, Martin.
Hi.
Yo.
Hello from Germany.
Hi. Hello from Catskill.
NYC. Represent.
Nice. Welcome. So as everybody's getting into the webinar room here and getting settled, please use the chat to say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We always like to know that. And that gets you familiar with using the chat too. Now, notice in the chat, there's two things. There's chat and there's Q&A. So you can also ask a question there in the Q&A section. But if you ask something in the chat, we can promote it to Q&A. That's just our little bit of housekeeping. This is being recorded. So you don't have to take furious notes if you don't want to, because the replay will be available to everybody pretty close to afterwards. Probably in about a day, we'll have this posted. So yes. So please say hello to Martin, who will be helping in the chat. Martin's tuning in from Germany. Brenda Hipsher is here from America also. And our guest star today, Alan. How you doing, Alan?
I'm so good. I can't wait to start talking to everybody.
If I had to use an adjective right now, I would say you look giddy.
Yeah. This was really cool. This was one of the more fun opportunities.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to sit under your learning tree and see where you went with this.
Well, I don't know that this is a learning tree as much as an inspiration kind of thing. And I really need it to be a safe space for everybody, because I'm going to show things that are raw and make me feel incredibly vulnerable, which for me is where all the growth is. So
that takes a lot of courage. So everybody be kind. I'm sure what Alan shows us is going to knock our socks off anyway. Even when he's vulnerable, he's pretty damn amazing. So.
Looking forward to seeing all the great pictures you shot in the past 2 weeks.
Yes. Yes. All right. So we're gonna roll into the preamble here. Thank you, Martin. Everybody, if you have technical questions, please ask Martin those in the chat or Brenda. Just one last bit of housekeeping. This is an inspirational presentation. Alan will talk about some things that are technical, but if you really want to know more about the nuts and bolts of using the Fujifilm GFX, Auto-Bellows, and the retro adapter, we're going to have another webinar that's coming up in about 2 weeks. We'll post the link here, and at the end of this, we'll send you guys to that page so you can register. So feel free to ask any questions you want. But chances are Alan's not going to get into the deeply technical stuff, or Martin will answer you the technical things in the chat. This is to help you understand just how freaking cool this opportunity is to use an Auto-Bellows or a reversed lens with the Fujifilm GFX. So without very much more preamble, Alan, you always amaze me. Your work is inspiring. Your attitude is ebullient. And I can't wait to see where you went with this. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to turn off my stuff now. Alan, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Let's have some fun.
Okay. So first off, I want to show you what we're talking about. And this is a little bit of gear porn. So here's my Fujifilm GFX 100S. And this is the piece of gear that is just so extraordinary. It is a Bellows, and then it is a retro adapter that allows me to maintain the electronic connections between my camera and my lens, so I can autofocus. And it comes on a single rail, and I've added another rail, which is inline. This is called the Castle QP, so that I can focus. I can set my distance with the Bellows right here, moving in. Let me do this properly. Moving, expanding and moving closer. And then I can focus, and I've got another piece. I've got a cast fine focusing extension tube that gives me a bigger surface area, so I can now focus the camera. If we were to take that same piece and just use it as a regular reversing ring, the retro adapter looks like this. And here it's on my 3264. This is on my Fujifilm GFX 50S. but you know, any GFX it works with. And this really, both of these tools blew my mind. But the fact that I could take one of my kit lenses and reverse it and get up to 3 times life size was just miraculous, especially when you consider the cost for those of you who may not have embraced macro yet. You just want to experiment. You've got a bunch of other lenses. This allows you to, you know, for a much lower investment. And by the way, these are all investment pieces of gear for sure. I'll talk about that. But this lets you play and explore and see what's possible. And holy cow. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you just a few other props. So this is a crystal that I had just to give you some scale. It's got a lot of things. I'm going to come back to it. This is a tiny little figure, really tiny, super tiny. I maintain a cast of characters in little jars. I had them for about a year and I had no idea what to use them with. And then this opportunity came along and holy cow. So let me share my screen and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Am I sharing? Can you see me, Matt? Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Nope.
What is going on? Entire screen. Share. Let me cancel out and do it again because it doesn't seem to want to work.
Amazing how
we just did this. We literally
we tech checked everything just a minute ago, and you know, hello technology.
It's choose what to share. Let's share my window. Okay, let's try this. Here we go. How about now?
Perfect.
Ta-da. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, this is a raspberry, and that is the figure that I just showed you. And this is where oops. Did it just go away again? No. Okay, here we go. We're back.
All good.
So here we are. For those of you who are looking over my shoulder, you see this is my home studio here in New York, and this is the setup on camera. And I just plopped a couple of things down on some apple crates and other things, and so this is what you're seeing. That crystal I just showed you, this was the first shot ever that I took with that. I don't know why I went to a crystal first. I think it might have been just sitting nearby and it looked interesting, and it's always been fascinating to me, and I wanted to see it super magnified. But it is challenging because things with multiple facets and with the focusing range of this, with the extreme magnification that I was able to get, like picking your focus point. So if you can see my cursor, I was literally focusing right here, and I was probably at f4, and like everything else kind of goes away. So, you know, here's another opportunity, again, just looking at the extreme plane of focus that I was working on, and you see the beautiful bokeh that is maintained. But this becomes the initial challenge. It's like, oh my God, there is so much to see at this level of magnification, but focusing. And I am not a focus stacker. I've played around with it, but I just wanted to not let that slow me down during this process. So certainly the first thing that I can't wait to go back to is this with the focusing rail and actually do a whole bunch of focus stacking and see everything come into big, beautiful focus. But for me as a macro photographer, I also do food and portraiture, but macro has my heart. The opportunity to zoom in and key in on very specific things is just a beautiful, meditative, therapeutic opportunity, and it's where the best part of my work, I believe, comes from. So now join me as I start jumping around. So like, here's how my brain's working. Okay, I grab the first thing, it's a crystal. And then I go and I grab an old engagement ring that's been lying around. I took it from my wife, who, when she looked over my shoulder, she said, "Oh my God, you didn't clean it?" And I said, "Oh, no." So I didn't clean it. So that's my fingerprints, but you start to see what's possible. And then I grabbed some of I went rummaging through her jewelry drawer, and you can see how much retouching people like Tiffany and big jewelry stores do, because no matter what you do, I could not get this to be perfect, which again makes me feel humble and also makes me feel like there is so much to learn and explore at this level of macro photography. So I'm really excited about that. Not that I ever wanted to be a jewelry photographer, but this tool, holy cow, does it, let me zoom in and see all sorts of things. And again, I'm working at very limited, very high, very low levels of depth of field, just so you can see how fine the focus is on some of these things. I grabbed a metal belt and started shooting at f4, and a bracelet, and just keying in on some of the things, and then moving literally less than a millimeter, and look at the difference, from the focus point to the next one and the next one. And now here's just a different point of view, but it blew my mind. So then I ran into my bathroom and I grabbed my toothbrush, and started playing around with that. And then from there, I went to my toolbox and I got a tiny little screw, and I started playing with that, and just looking at, again, focusing on the very point here, just to see what I could see and what started happening. And then I grabbed a rubber band and just threw it on a white surface, and it became so sculptural and so beautiful in its simplicity that, again, there's a whole other world that I can't wait to go back to and start playing with paper clips and the things that we all have. So one of the things for me is, when I'm shooting for myself versus for clients, I want it to be relaxing and joy provoking and delightful. And so I am always like opening a drawer and grabbing a handful of things. We all have junk drawers in our kitchens or our offices. And so pulling out the flotsam and jetsam of office supplies now becomes this wonderful journey to see what's possible. I love collecting stones from every place I visit, and I love making cairns here for therapy and on location. I know this is a little bit polarizing, but I do make things where I know they can blow down, because I don't want to mess with certain environmental things. But I love building stones, and so here again is a tiny pile of river pebbles. I think that small one is about the size of your pinky nail, and it just goes slightly up from there. And look at how interesting it is. And now back to what I love doing. I bought the tiniest chrysanthemum I could find, like essentially a baby. It was probably 2 inches across. And then I zoomed into the very center of it. So you see, and then here is another one. Again, you are looking at let's zoom in on this, just so you can see the level of focus as we come in. I think this is 300%, and just this tool was incredible. Now I will tell you that it did take me a little bit of trial and error to fine tune the focus. Let me go back. Here's another. Is this big enough for you all? I feel like my screen just bounced around a little bit.
Maybe Command plus one more time.
How are we doing? So here's, let me go to fit. There we go, better. Okay. So here's an anemone that, again, if you're coming from a mirrorless world, which many of you are, and you've got a smaller camera, that the focusing distance available from your lens to the subject is minimal. But with the GFX system, with my 120 millimeter macro, I can only get so close. Now, that doesn't mean I can't crop in with that incredibly large sensor, but if I want to zoom way in, the Bellows now with the retro adapter just lets me see things even closer. And when I've got my eye up to the eyepiece, I feel like I'm in another world. And so it lets me go in and explore, and especially at f4 and f5.6, every minute move on the bellows or the focus reveals a different part of the flower, which I think I'll show you a little bit later, but it's fascinating. So now here I am, and I am able to create these 100+ megapixel files that are just, I'm so close in on it. And it makes my heart so happy to have this ability now with the camera system that I love, but also, to come even closer. So, I'm just going to cycle through a little bit more. Most of these are unretouched, just so you see the files right out of the camera, and you can appreciate, you may see a little dust. I just came back from a very dirty shoot when I was doing this, and I haven't had time to clean, but here we go. I mean, look at the tiny little hairs. I mean, the other thing you learn as a macro photographer is, oh my God, I need a macro stylist on some of these. I have to look even closer because I didn't realize, how much hair was there and how much cleanup I might need. Here is a Gerbera daisy. And so I want you to picture the center of that daisy is maybe 1.5 inches across. And so we had this wild set of petals growing out of the middle that just, tickled me. And look at how close you're able to get. I forget what this is called, but this is one of those sort of bulb-shaped flowers that poofs out at the top. Someone can look it up or put it in chat, but it had just started to bud, and it just was so fascinating to me. So again, I love working with subjects that I'm familiar with, but then there's an aspect of getting even closer that just made me so happy. So then next step, after the flowers, I ran to the refrigerator and I saw what the last grocery shopping was. And, I love berries. So let's play with berries and see them closer than I've ever looked. I mean, look at the skin of the blueberry. It's textural almost. And, you don't see that. So this for me just becomes more and more fascinating. And so then I bring out a water bottle and I start playing with that. And I know these are, for those of you, remember, it's safe space. It's like there's so much further I want to and need to take these, but I can't wait to go even closer and see what's possible. And so here, this was the genesis of the original shot I showed you with the tiny little character. And this was a follow-up. I found someone else and just plopped him on the back end as if he had, finished his swim and was coming out. And I just can't believe how close I am. Here is the tip of an asparagus spear at 3 times life size. It's mind-boggling. Here's that same raspberry, and I got a bunch, let's see, sprinkles, cake decoration, what are they called, whatever, and filled it and just put the raspberry in a tiny little dish of these nonpareil balls and just started playing with here the skin of the fruit of the berry, and then here just moving in literally, I think, 1 millimeter or 2 to focus on that silver ball in the background. And then, of course, let's start cutting things open. Here's a kiwi fruit, and here's a tomato, and here's a different tomato. And this, as the food photography side of me, just lets me I can't wait to start cutting things open and throwing them on my light box and seeing what different aspect of the fruit or vegetable comes out. Here's a mushroom, and here's some dried orange peels that we throw in our tea and when I have cocktail parties. Here are cloves and star anise and peppercorns. And let's see, what is this? I think, yeah, more peppercorns, I believe. This is a pine cone. a tiny little pine cone that I went and found. And now, for those of you who know some of my macro work, I love as things age and watching what happens as the aging process takes over. And so I will invariably, I've got vases and, you know, sort of flats of flowers that have been drying for weeks and then sometimes months. And I will always go back and revisit them and see what's possible. And now I can look at them with a whole different level of detail. So as we get closer and closer still, here's one of those anemones that I showed you earlier. You know, a week later, it had started to dry up and it just becomes just fascinating. Back to anemones. Or is this a ranunculus? No, this is an anemone. And this is what I was talking about. I'm going to stop here because, you know, we all have a certain point of view we get used to, basis the lenses we have and the camera system we're working with. And then when we can take and add something that lets us go that much deeper, that much closer, and see it in a whole new way, for me, this was so eye-opening and so exciting, because now that I have this, I can take my macro work literally that much further, literally, figuratively. Like now I can come in and start doing studies on pistils and stamens as opposed to the beautiful flowers. So as we get closer and closer still and start looking at relationships, and it becomes its own kind of compositional exploration. So it's not just about moving closer and keeping everything in focus. It's about making creative decisions. What do we want to keep in focus and what not? And so sometimes tools can open up a different way of seeing or doing things. And that's what has me most excited about this and the possibilities. So let's see. I used to have a tarantula. I know that many people who do extreme macro are doing focus stacking and are, you know, pinning bugs, and you know, they're magnificently beautiful when seen at this kind of, you know, 3-time magnification. But sadly, my tarantula died a few years ago, and this is the best I can do because I am not an experienced bug pinner and regurgitator or whatever, conservationist or whatever, but look at her fangs and look at the hairs still on her molt. And then I went to my art supply chest and pulled out some colored pencils that I've been waiting to use. And here again, I'm focusing right over here at f4, and you know, look at how narrow my focus is and the interesting opportunities that sets up. Now, one of the last things I did, and the thing that has me most excited, is I opened up my freezer and I pulled out a pile of ice and I literally put it in a tumbler and just sat down. I lit it from behind. I've got a Kaiser Slim Light Plano light box that I just propped up and put it right behind the glass and just started twirling the glass a little bit, letting it settle. And this is ice. These are the ice cubes that my freezer puts out. And I found a world that was as exciting to me as, you know, a while back when I was playing with oil and milk and paint colors in that level of macro. This has my head spinning so fast, and I can't wait to go back and play and see what else I can do and perfect my lighting and take my focus to an even better place and perhaps look at a little bit of stacking. But you know, here I dropped in some food coloring because again, I started getting curious with things colorful. I actually have a big cube maker, you know, one of those industrial cocktail square cube makers that I filled with butterfly tea, which gives a blue tint and actually changes when you change the pH. So I made a blue ice cube, a square one, probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches across. and this is at 3 times life size. And you're seeing a little bit of the end here, but look at what starts going on when you look at things you'd never would even think to hold up this close. At least I didn't. So again, I hope you hear the enthusiasm. Now, this is my break point. Yes, there were some misfires, absolutely. But now this is a 32-64 lens with just the lens reversed. So I want you to, think about what you saw before with my regular macro lens, my 120. And now this is the possibility when you take your kit lens and you reverse it. So holy wow. Same thing here. Kit lens reversed. Everything you're going to see over the next couple of frames is what I did just with this simple kit lens. So here, focusing on just the most forward pedal, here leaving the focus point, moving it back to the center of this tiny little chrysanthemum that was about to bud. Going back to a different kind of chrysanthemum. This is a Gabera daisy, and at extreme macro, all with the reversing lenses. And this was a little bit of the journey that I have, and now I want to talk to people. So I'm going to stop sharing unless there's any questions or you want me to go back. I know I did that really fast, but I want to look people in the eye and have them ask me questions if that's okay. So is that good, Matt? Or
yeah, of course it's good. No, you're gonna have to look me in the eye because we can't put them on stage.
Yeah, I know.
So we don't have any questions yet, but since we're on a 30-second delay, perhaps people are just catching their breath from all of the journey that you
did I go too fast?
You did not go too fast.
Okay.
Not in my opinion. I'll read some comments that came through in the meantime. Mark shared, great. It's a new way to my photography. I'll invest in macro photography. Thanks. So there's at least one person who was like, wow, I didn't do this before, and now I'm going to.
Yeah, and I think that's the point for me. I call myself a macro photographer. And so, but I only took it to a certain point, and I was very happy with that point. And it was, it was making me money, and it was something that I've been teaching and loving the process of sharing. But we all get to a point where we get, I don't want to say complacent, but we're in our groove, and sometimes we need a little bit of a nudge to push a little bit further. Now, I am very self-directed, and so there is nothing that I won't try. But again, this let me see in such a different way, and I don't know if it was just the fact that it was a slower process, because obviously, I'm moving the bellows first, and I'm finding what I want to be looking at, and then I'm perfecting the focus. Yeah. So it's a much more methodical practice than I'm used to. I've got a little bit of ADD, I think, or I'll call it creative ADD, because it's not clinical. It's just there's so much to see and there's so much I want to photograph, so I'm moving really fast. This forced me to slow down, and in doing so, just opened different synapses for me. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And so I want you to think about the concept, not just about, the gear we know we need because it's, for a specific client project, but I want you to think about like this aspect of the gear that becomes a creative muse, a source of inspiration, an opportunity to sort of invest in yourself and your practice and investing in taking your work further without any other need than that. And so that for me is just really an incredible sort of epiphany. And yes. and the follow-up to that is like, what are you worth? Like, what is taking your work to a different level, getting to a different plateau? What is that worth to you? And for me, this is
everyone has
one
to
of those
answer
priceless things.
to herself.
Yeah.
There's actually some questions coming in.
Okay. Can we stop sharing, or should we share for a little bit longer? And
well, let's hit some of the questions, and perhaps those will share some. That will spur some more questions. But there's definitely a good number of questions right now that I'm sure you'll be talking for a little bit while we work through these.
Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead, Martin.
Okay. Larry asks, how did you light the colored pencils?
Oh, super simple. I don't know if you saw over my shoulder in my studio, I keep continuous lights. I just find them, from my practice, easier to work with than, flashing and working with modeling lights. So I've got continuous LEDs. They happen to be from Nanlite, and I just put a giant softbox. And if I remember, it was essentially overhead and maybe a little bit to the left of the image as you're looking at it. So very simple. What you see in the background is a piece of blue painted canvas that just, way out of focus, way out of focus, because it's probably a foot away. But
quite simple.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Kathy asked, wow, how do you reverse a lens?
You use the retro adapter, and it has two pieces, and you screw one end on one end, and then it's got a cord which provides the connectivity, and you screw the other end onto your lens, and then you reverse it. So the front of your lens, the part that is the furthest away from your camera, now screws into your camera, and the part that was originally right up against your camera body and leading to the sensor is what is facing out. So that is where that element provides the magnification, or the reversing of those elements. Again, I'm not going to go technical. Martin will talk to you about that either now or in a few weeks, but it is super simple. Super simple and so easy. And so the more lenses you have, I've tried it on a couple of mine. I found the 3264, if that's what I'm working with. Yep, the 3264 gave me the most pleasing results of the lenses I have. But wow, can't wait to play more.
Can you tell what focal lengths you were working with within the 32 to 64 millimeter range?
Yeah, let's go, and let me go into, let's see what it tells me in my metadata. So let's see. So here I was at 64 millimeters is my lens setting on this image. Let me go to a different one and we'll see what changes. Let me leave this on. 64. I know I played here. I'm at 57.5. Let's come back here. 64. So I guess I stayed in at the maximum.
Makes sense.
So okay.
And it tells us that even the EXIF information from the camera are transferred, or from the lens are transferred to the camera.
Yeah.
Bill asked, what is the brand and size of your light box?
The brand is Kaiser Phototechnic. The product is called the Slim Light Plano, and I use the size that is, I believe it's 19 by 23, 24. It's the large size.
19.6 by 13.8. Yep.
Thank you.
I will post a link to that, Bill. Thanks for asking that question. I'm going to put all of them here anyway for everybody. Okay, cool. Answered. Great. Next one, Roy asked, beautiful images. I was a little late logging in. I don't know if you already spoke about your hardware setup, but if you did not, could you provide a quick overview? I think this is a good time to talk about the Bellows again. You just showed that you had a retro adapter, which is you took a lens and reversed it and you put the retro adapter on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you have is that retro adapter plus the Bellows, which makes the Auto-Bellows kit. which means that you can put a lens on the front and have the bellows in between, and then connect it to the body, and all
so
the
let's look at this image. So you can see here and way here, hidden behind the hand grip, and then you see the cord.
We're not seeing your screen right now.
You're not?
Nope, not yet.
What are you seeing?
Just seeing your face. I think you need to start sharing screen. Yeah.
Hang on. I thought I was.
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry.
It's all right. That's what we're here for. We're a team.
Window. Boom. Share. Okay. Here we go. So here, obviously the bellows is the big blue thing, and it's on a rail, and it comes exactly as you see it with the top rail. There is a piece here hidden behind the hand grip, and a piece way up front, this slightly less wide blue piece, and with a cord, a power cord, a connection, an electronic connection cord, Martin, you can correct me, that allows for the pass-through of all of the information from the lens to the camera, as if you had just screwed the lens in right into the bushing. So
perfect explanation.
Right? Now, the other thing to understand is, because the first rail allows you to set the distance from the lens to your subject, but then you have to focus. So now you're separating those two functions. So there is a second rail that I've put in that is in line with the first rail. So now I can move it closer and closer still by using the this focusing piece, and
without having to change bellows extension.
Exactly. Thank you. So that's the hard part.
And maybe let me ask the second part of Roy's question. Yes, you can also add the two bayonets that are connected by the wire to the tilt shift bellows. That's also possible.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to, yeah. And then here is that same retro adapter. So you see the two pieces right here and right here, and the cord. And so now this is my regular kit lens, my 3264 reversed, which lets me get super, super close and go up to 3 times life size. Wow.
Okay.
What else do we have?
All right. So Stephen asks, would a prime high-end lens with the bellows give you the best results? And there's a part 2, which is we'll come to, but he wants you to address your lighting also. But let's talk about your lens suggestions.
Who are we asking now?
Oh, you. I guess Martin can answer this first, right?
Yeah, let's get Martin's.
Yeah, Martin, this is for you.
Okay, if we're speaking of working with the bellows, I would definitely recommend working with the 120 macro, because it not only will get you 3 times life size at full bellows extension, but it will also get you a greater working distance from the front lens element to your subject. I'm pretty sure you noticed this when working with this particular combination. Yeah. But I think we're safe to say that a high-end prime lens will definitely get you high-end results when working with the bellows. But when detaching the 2 mounts that are connected by wire and using them as a reversing ring, I would recommend using a zoom lens instead of a prime lens, because now the front lens element stays put in relation to the sensor. You can't use it to set your focus anymore, and you can find a workaround by using the zoom instead. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So, Alan, did you want to talk a little bit more about your thinking when it comes to lighting and macro? It was sort of an open question, but I'm sure that is there something that you do to begin as you iterate through lighting scenarios, or do you have a go-to sort of light shaper that you use and distance or something like that?
It totally depends. So you can see I'm in my home studio. I have a wall of glass here. Mm-hmm. And so I have great natural light, but that is only good when the sun is out and if it's nighttime or if it's cloudy or the weather's inclement and I want more control, which I do because I am a bit of a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. I will work with a range of tools. I have a whole bunch of different size continuous lights, from a small 60 watt to a giant 300 watt. I use my Slimlight light box, the Slimlight Plano, as sometimes as just a very simple source of light for backlighting things. No different than if I just set something up against the softbox with diffusion. And then I also have a whole bunch of tiny little pen lights where I can change the adapter. And sometimes I will do a little bit of light painting if I'm feeling like I just need an extra kiss of light. But other times I will, there's any number of black and white reflector cards, but I also use tinfoil on an industrial clamp to act as a mini reflector. In fact, I kind of want to show you that because it's really cool. So, stupid pet trick. Here is an industrial clip, a paper clip for pieces of paper. And here is a doubled over piece of tinfoil. So I can literally put this on a surface and I can angle it and I can curve it. And so for my tiniest of subjects, this is just a perfectly wonderful, very easy to make tool. And we all have tinfoil in our kitchens, hopefully. So there you have it. So that's the range of lighting. You've got a 60 watt behind me. The bigger lights are in another room and that's all you need. Plenty of reflectors.
Awesome. That's great. Lighting is a lifelong pursuit and something you're never really done learning or playing with or applying new ways or learning from other people's creative applications of what to do with light. So thanks for sharing that. And I'm sure that you're going to have lots of other fun things to do too. So let's see. June asked, do you add the food coloring to the ice tray before you freeze the water's ice cubes? Also, was the glass on the light box?
The glass was on a light box. Mm-hmm. And I think I may have, I've got one here just so you can see how thin it is. I am a flora hoarder. So here you see I'm using it, I've been drying a bunch of flowers, so I just have a surface. But this is the Slimlight, so you can see how tiny it is. There. And so there's that. The food coloring, I've done both. And then combine them. So there are times I want colored ice. So I'll put the food coloring in with the water and then freeze it. And be forewarned, it is always lighter than you think. So you're going to end up going through a lot of food coloring. Then there is put the ice and some liquid, whether it's water or oil or glycerin, and put that in a glass of some sort, and then add food coloring on top of that. And you get very interesting rivulets. Again, very unpredictable, but I think that's part of the fun and the surprise that is part of this journey we're all on. So use them independently, plain ice and food coloring, colored ice, no food coloring, colored ice, and food coloring, and see what happens for you. You get all kinds of interesting combinations and streaks and drips and whatever, which is its own genre of photography that I love playing with. Just not ready to share it yet because I'm not that good and it makes me insecure.
Gotcha. I just found, let's see, I just saw another question come in that Martin would want to answer. And thank you for answering that. As you know, I already have the Pro Bellows with the tilt shift. Can I use that with the retro adapter for the Fuji GFX?
I think Roy asked this question. Yes.
Yeah.
You can also attach the reversing ring for Fuji GFX to your BAL-FUG TS Bellows. That's possible.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's a good place for us to insert this reminder. We did mention it before, but we're going to have a fully technical and gear-based webinar in about 2 weeks. And everybody will be emailed the link to that invitation. And you'll also be sent to that page to sign up right at the end of this webinar, should you be interested right now. So that was wonderful. This is a wonderful Q&A session. You guys are lively today. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mark is answered. All right. I'm just looking to see if we missed anything else. Now is the time, if you have more questions, to pop them in. There are a couple of questions in here that are that we might answer privately by email. If we didn't get to, that's because it would probably take longer to explain, and it's not specifically germane to the Fuji GFX series stuff that we're talking about. So don't worry. If we didn't speak it out loud, we're definitely going to converse with you and help you find your answers. So thank you for asking. Alan, let me ask you something. This is my question. Wow, how do I put this together?
No, I'm scared.
Oh, no. This is all good. When you have that many pixels with the GFX, and I saw you show it over and over again, how much time did you spend pixel peeping? Did you zoom in a lot and say, wow, and then zoom in again and say, wow, again, and then zoom in again and say, oh my gosh, when does it end?
Yeah. And so, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. It's like being, having a new toy that you can't get enough of and you don't want to put down. And right. So realize you've got a powerful piece of gear in the GFX system, right? I mean, we all love Fuji. That's why we're here. The quality of the files is magnificent, right? And so now to put another exceptional piece of gear and combine it with that and see how much closer you can get. And I'll be very truthful. I had a partially torn retina right when I got this. So like I had laser surgery. And so I found that I started on manual focus because that's what I prefer to do. And I just wanted to have that level of precision and do that, but I couldn't make it work. So my first couple of days were really frustrating. And then I remembered, oh my God, I've got the electronic pass-through. So I just put it on autofocus and then let the camera do the work. Now realize when you're this close and, depending on where your focus spot on, and I'm on the finest spot metering setting, because when I want to control where you're looking, and when I want to make a decision, I want to be on that part of the pistol in the very center or this far end of the crystal, because I want to sort of look through your ability to focus is really important. And so I'm always checking and double checking. And so zooming in and going, wow. And then moving in a little closer, going, wow. And there's more to do, right? There's more practice to have. So it's exciting.
Wonderful. Well, I love that you went from giddy to totally gleeful. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a good places to stay, right? So
yeah. And so for those of you who are interested in monetizing this craft of ours, which we all hopefully are, I work with flower gardens. I work with magazines that want floral photography or food photography, and they're always saying, here's a subject, surprise us. So I'm fortunate in that regard, and so to be able to show them a different take on things, if only to provoke them. I mean, that's part of the service we provide. So I'm already thinking about who I can take some examples of this work to see what they then ask me to do. And so that, the fact that it's got my brain racing, and I can't wait to show clients, and I can't wait to get other people excited about it. That's so much fun, right? And that's where the business and the joy start merging. and
Good
you know,
point.
it's one of those other things. Sometimes gear just makes your life easier, it makes the process smoother. Sometimes gear allows you to get to this other place. I can't underscore that enough for me. And hopefully it applies to some of you who are watching. You know, this is truly an investment in you as a creative person, and it's going to open up different types of creativity. You're going to see it, and you know, that's invaluable.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you so much for dropping in and helping us today. Roy just said, Alan, your compositions were creative and inspirational. Thank you for sharing. I totally agree.
Thank you.
We have one more question from Luis. Is it possible to use an even wider GF zoom, like the 20 to 35 millimeter, with just the reversing rings, no bellows, and achieve more than 3:1? Thank you very much. I guess Martin would be the best one to answer that.
We were unable to achieve any magnifications beyond 3:1 yet.
Okay.
All right. But I have one last question for Alan.
Yeah.
How much Nutella do you have left in that big jar behind you?
I have not. That is a new tub of Nutella, and it has not been officially opened yet. It's my in case of emergency Nutella supply.
Okay.
When you say officially opened, do you mean you've secretly opened it?
Well, no, I haven't. Like, it's got a seal. But what you didn't ask is how many industrial sized Nutellas have I gone through in my lifetime?
That would be rude to ask.
Yes, right.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Alan, you're the best. Thank you so much. Martin, you're up next. And I was going to say exactly 2 weeks. It's 13 days, 23 hours, 8 minutes, and 22 seconds from now. The next webinar begins. It's called Unlocking Creative Potential using the Auto-Bellows and reverse adapters for the Fujifilm GFX. I'm pasting that link in here. If you guys are watching this on the replay, it's already in the description. Sign up for it. If that's already passed, you'll find a link to that replay also. But for those of you who attended live, we appreciate you so much. Thanks for showing up, being here, and being a part of this, and giving Alan more to work with, because that's why we do it live. Otherwise, we would just record a video. So thank you for being a part of the process. We appreciate you. Alan, you're amazing. Thanks for doing this. I can't wait until we do it again. Martin, again, I said you're up next, but you bring a wealth of knowledge to this, and thank you for that. And Brenda, we appreciate you too. Thanks for being there in the chat and helping us. We are going to bring this in for a landing. And wow. Until next time, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Take care.